What's up, everybody? This is episode 12 of the PlayStation Effect, a weekly podcast that discusses the past, present, and future of PlayStation. I'm your host, Marco. Joining me is my good friend and co-host, Pablo, and this week we're going to have a brutally honest conversation about the PS Plus price increase and the community's anti-consumer allegations. Plus, Saros isn't selling, so we'll discuss exactly what went wrong and what happens next for Sony and Housemarque. Also, it's official. Sony's done bringing their single-player games to PC, so we'll revisit this strategic pivot now that it's set in stone and talk about what it means for PlayStation. All of that and more right here on the PlayStation Effect. But before we get into the show, Pablo, you've been holding out on the people. You've been holding out on the people.
What you mean?
I don't like it. I'm aware of a birthday that's happening the day this episode goes live, and it is for good old Pablo right here. I want to say happy birthday to you, man.
Thank you, brother.
You lived a hell of a life, 52 years old, 7 baby mamas. Been busy out here.
yeah, for sure. Been busy out there giving it to the ladies and making them babies. You know how they say.
Saddle up at Texas Roadhouse, man. Good in there.
It's the big 40, the 40-year-old birthday. So
how you feeling about that? How you feeling about the 40 milestone? That's a big one. That's not no chump of change, man.
Never been a guy to celebrate birthdays much. So I mean, I guess if I think about it, it's kind of depressing to a certain extent. But it's not really something that I think about often in terms of my age. I guess I don't feel my age until somebody tells me my age, type of thing, But having this kid now, I'm starting to feel like 40's about right. That's how I'm feeling. My body is making all the noises, all the creaks and all the sounds. Yeah.
Yeah. Noticing a lot of gray follicles. Need some just for men. Hopefully you get that for your birthday. For sure. That'd be nice. But yeah, man, happy birthday to you. Hopefully it's a good one for you. But look, it might be a good time for you. It's not been a good time for PlayStation. It's definitely not the rosiest season for this platform right now. And when things are going left, we got to call it out. So that's what we're going to do here. Now, the first thing, the PlayStation Plus price hike. So starting May 20th, PS Plus Essential prices are going up for new subscribers, with monthly plans hitting $10.99 and 3-month tiers bumping up to $27.99. So Sony hit us with the quote-unquote market conditions excuse, but the PlayStation community is not buying it, as accusations of corporate greed and anti-consumerism have now started gaining traction. So that said, Pablo, I think it'd be way too easy to just sit here and ask a surface-level question to one another like, how bad of a look is this? So instead, I'd like us to kind of dig a little deeper and explore why we think this happened, how we think this will impact PlayStation, if at all, and more importantly, what all of this should signal for all of you out there as PlayStation consumers. I'm pretty passionate about this, but I do want to give you the floor to just kind of get some initial reactions from you, and also just kind of where you think this all sits with what I just talked about there.
The problem here is every time that there's some kind of movement within the industry, price hikes, the economy, so on and so forth, a lot of these companies like to take advantage of that. And they go, we can do this because we can point towards market conditions, And this is just a bigger picture in terms of how PlayStation has been for a long time when it comes specifically to PS Plus. Because I've always thought PS Plus pales in comparison to Game Pass, obviously. There's some good stuff there for sure. The price does not equal the content. What I'm hoping for is that with the new price hike and them pointing towards market conditions as to why this is happening, that they also do their part by adding more value to the actual PS Plus and adding more games. I don't think that's going to happen. That's the problem, right? It's just an overall kind of PlayStation as a whole is continually taking over Xbox's stepping on rakes.
Yeah, and to your point, something that Xbox at least attempted to do when they raised the price of Game Pass to $30, which was already eye-watering. But they did try at least to incentivize you with a little bit of perks, even if it didn't really connect with you, like Fortnite Crew and Ubisoft Plus and things like that. even though that didn't go over the greatest, it was still an attempt that they not only announced the price increase, but they also announced those perks with it. They didn't really do that here. So for all intents and purposes, this is just our bad excuse for wanting more money from you.
And not to mention, say what you will, at the very least, with Game Pass, even though it was $30 or it was $30 a month for a while there, you were going to get first-party games day and date. You were going to get Call of Duty, one of the biggest games of the year every year. Those things were sure things that were going to happen. You just don't know what you get with PS Plus. You never do, And look, there's some value there, but at the tone of $27.99, ain't no way in hell, buddy.
Let me kind of tag in here and say a couple things to PlayStation consumers out there, and I think you'll agree. I think that any and all accusations of anti-consumerism, I think is completely justified now. And any and all excuses surrounding market conditions are an insult to our collective intelligence. Because when you look at PlayStation, and we've called it out, even in the short span that this show's been around, between this, the console price increases, online DRM, losing the class action lawsuit with the PlayStation Store, the infatuation with AI, I can't really tell if this is still PlayStation or a pre-Asha Xbox that's like possessed by the spirit of Don Matrick. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And I say that jokingly, but it's also kind of true because I think we've talked a lot of identity-like conversations around PlayStation in recent episodes, and I think that's not a coincidence because things like this continue to make PlayStation look very, very different from everything that they used to be. And as a longtime fan, it's hard to recognize this brand sometimes because what a lot of people will say is, well, it's just $1. It's really not about that. It's about investing one's time and money into a platform that thanks me by talking out of their ass about market conditions while also expecting us to continue funding this hootenanny, making it our fault that 27 people bought Saros, that Marathon's bleeding users left and right, and they're basically making us foot the bill for that by doing this. And the other thing is that, let's call it what it is. This ain't shit but a GTA 6 online tax. That's what this is, right? They know that PS Plus subscriptions are going to go through the roof once that game drops, and they cannot wait, Pablo, to take advantage of that. And from a business standpoint, I can't sit here and pretend like that doesn't make sense, but that doesn't mean you sit here and insult my intelligence as a consumer and tell me this is a matter of market conditions when it's a matter of opportunism, really. Like, just admit you saw a generational money printer coming and you wanted a bigger bucket underneath it.
This whole market condition excuse, as if it was out of their control, to your point, is insulting to us because it is within their control. They are the market. So the fact that they're doing this and then trying to say, it's out of our hands type of deal is ridiculous.
Now, the question that I want to ask next, how do we think this will impact PlayStation? Do you think that this changes the optics of the brand? Do you think this changes the trajectory in any kind of way? Or is this just another one of those unfortunate instances where they can do it because they can get away with it as the market leader?
I don't think this specifically is going to change the brand overall. However, it's a compounding effect of things that keep stacking and stacking and stacking.
Yeah.
So this is just another straw on that proverbial camel's back that eventually something else is going to come, going to stack it, and it's going to be, and that's what's really going to start breaking that entire situation.
Cracking some vertebrae on that damn camel. That camel's about to get the business in a second, man.
That camel's about to get his back broken.
Oh, that sounds nasty. Wait a minute.
That hump about to be
We don't mean it like that. We're not being sexual, okay?
Nah. That hump's about to be cracked in two.
Oh, God.
No. So, yeah, it's not this one thing, but it is just an amalgamation of things that's going to eventually do them in.
Yeah, and that's what reminds me of Xbox also, pre-Asha Sharma, is also that death by 1,000 cuts feeling, right?
Yeah.
It's like these little instances of micro annoyances. When you isolate them, you're right. They don't feel like game changers, but when you pair it next to that list that I rattled off about AI and, console prices going up, and also then you have this very scarce output of first-party titles, you have the live service mess, you have all these different things, and you sandwich it all together, and you're like, man, this is a really bad time. The things that make this platform feel good as a PlayStation product are just not there. And again, it's just more nickel-y-dimey nonsense that takes away a lot of the fun and just the peace of mind of knowing that you're not only where you want to play, but you're at a place where you're playing games and having a good time and not feeling like you're getting gypped out of a better experience because of these corporate moves that seem to always kind of end up digging around your pockets instead of their own, you know? And that's what's unfortunate. You can feel that coming through with little things like this, because when people say it's only $1, to me, that's like, well, that's my point. Why do this over $1? What was this worth in terms of the PR hit just to get another $1 out of me every month? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Ugh. Yeah, that's what's icky about this, man. And I guess that leads me to like what all of this should signal for our fellow PlayStation consumers. I mean, if you had to kind of sit down in front of the collective, Pablo, and say, okay, here's what this means to you. What do you think this does mean?
Well, look, I'll give you kind of my experience, right? So for a while, I've always had all the consoles, but Xbox was my main go-to console, right?
Yeah.
Over the years, that's shifted over to PlayStation. And for someone who the reasoning behind that was because PlayStation is PlayStation and they are always doing the same thing over and over, and that's a good thing. That's a set of comfort for me. And I'm sitting here buying up games on PlayStation, building my PlayStation library, and I'm thinking, are they about to fumble so bad that when the new Xbox comes out, Xbox might come out here and start taking over just like we did with 360 again? That's how I feel. And I think that as a PlayStation fan and for the collective, I think they should start looking at what PlayStation is planning to do. What is their end goal here? Because it doesn't seem like they have one other than nickel and diming us right now. Mm-hmm. That's what it feels like. It feels like they have no clear identity, like we spoke on the show many a times. But the ultimate thing, the one thing that they do have that is consistent throughout is the fact that they do not hesitate when it comes to burdening the consumer with that extra dollar. So it's a big point of contention for me because I put all my eggs in one basket and now I'm thinking, am I making a mistake? I don't want to be so doom and gloom, but this is the beginning of something. Herman Holtz and management doesn't seem like they're going to fix it. It seems like they're going to continually do whatever they can possibly do to make extra money any way they can.
And it feels like there's no humanity behind it whatsoever either.
None at all.
And that's the weird part. Like, you know, like when Nintendo raised the price of the Switch 2, one thing we can give them credit for is they moved up the Star Fox reveal and then they pledged to bring us even more games to make the cost worth our while. And, you know, again, credit where credit's due to Xbox. When Asha Sharma walked in there, she brought fresh eyes and restored some sanity up in that place. She lowered subscription prices, she nuked the bad marketing campaign, and she has been systematically, piece by piece, rebranding Xbox to something different and something more. So all of that kind of stems from some sort of human relatability. If we get that what we're doing is putting a squeeze on you, so here's what we're doing. Here's the steps we're taking to make this as comfortable for you as possible. And there's none of that to be found here. It's just market conditions, pay more money, buy. And that's not the same. So to your point, if you're someone who's maybe not just in the here and now, but you're thinking a couple years down the road when you have new consoles out and they're not going to be cheap and you may have to only choose one console, things like this create a lot of problems. And that leads me to what I would say to PlayStation consumers is be mindful of your nostalgia for PlayStation, because it can quickly go from nostalgia to Stockholm Syndrome. And what that basically means is you might love PlayStation just like I do. All the memories, all the moments, all the amazing games from all those consoles past that make you still be a gamer and a PlayStation fan to this day. But don't let that bite you in the ass and not see what's happening to you as a consumer and just, I guess, begrudgingly stick with PlayStation because it's all you know or it's all you've ever played. It is smart to consider the alternatives. And it doesn't have to be a console. It can be the alternative of PC gaming, the alternative of or going the Nintendo route for a while, sticking to something that's a little bit more familiar, that's a little bit more traditional, or, you know, taking a stab at Xbox. I just say keep your options open and don't let nostalgia kind of trap you into making purchasing decisions that really aren't giving you the value that you're giving to PlayStation through your money. Because we know these consoles aren't going to get cheaper. So I just think it's time to start watching your butthole, man. Watch the butthole. You know, because they're out here. They got the thumb out. They're trying to get y'all out here, man.
Watch and wash that butthole, ladies and gentlemen. Just
man, you got to wash that anus, okay? I know that took a turn. People are like, wait a minute. We were talking about games, baby. What about my butthole? But look, is this the end of life itself? No, but I do think, and I think you'll agree, Pablo, this is kind of an omen of sorts to this new age PlayStation. And if your antennas are up and you're concerned, you're not crazy. Don't let the internet gaslight you into thinking that you're making a big deal out of something small. Be the consumer that you are and make smart choices for yourself if this sounds like a platform that might be less worth it for you than it maybe used to be. But things are happening, and you have a right to have a reaction to it. But look, man, we have more reactions to give about the state of PlayStation, because let's move on to our next topic
good news
here.
Finally? Oh, wait, no.
I don't know about good news, man. Because look, the first 2 weeks of data for Saros are finally in, and admittedly, the numbers look grim. According to estimates from Alinea Analytics, the game has sold roughly 300,000 copies since its launch on April 30th. Now, on paper, that is about $22 million in revenue, which sounds like a lot, until you realize the reported development budget was north of $75 million. So that's bad enough, but worse yet, Pablo, Saros is actually pacing behind its predecessor, Returnal, in sales.
And let's not forget here, the actual install base is 10 times bigger than it was when Returnal launched. So
a lot more millions of people got a PlayStation 5 nowadays, and 300,000.
That's incredibly concerning. Now, Returnal sold over 1 million copies lifetime on PlayStation. It's a niche title, and this was always going to be niche as well, right? It's just the way that these games are. They're not for everybody. But even this seems like really bad because of the, like I said, the install base and the fact that PlayStation fans are clamoring for PlayStation exclusive first-party games, you know? And the fact that this wasn't even able to get even close to what Returnal has done is actually shocking to me, because I thought this game would have sold at least 500,000+ copies based on the simple fact that I'm factoring in a smaller game, the studio that's not as well known as the Santa Monica, so on and so forth. But man, this is rough.
And now there are some people who say, well, Alinea Analytics is not always accurate. They blah, blah. I've heard that pushback before. But there's also people in the industry like the Jeff Grubbs of the world who are like, no, they're actually not too far off from the real numbers most times. But it's called an estimate for a reason, right? It's not supposed to be pinpoint accurate. But it does kind of track with where I thought this game was going to land. So I'm not too surprised. I mean, we did have a pretty extensive conversation prior to Saros launching where we asked the question, where is the Saros hype? And I think a lot of that was revolving around the fact that it was a known commodity. It was basically just a reskinned Returnal. And I hate being that reductive, but in the eyes of many people, that's probably what it was. And if you were one of the people who bought Returnal and it didn't connect with you because of what type of game it is, and you're one of the 89% of people who didn't finish Returnal, you're probably not going to give this game another chance unless you're someone like, you know, who's interested or curious to see, okay, maybe is this one for me because it has more difficulty options or blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, that's something that they've said, though, that the game has strong player retention, and it has, I think, doubled or tripled the rate of completion as opposed to its predecessor, which is impressive in itself. You know, that means that they did something right there.
It might not be, though, because that could just mean that the people who did love Returnal are really the only ones who are playing.
But that's what I'm saying. It reached its audience, but I think that their audience, that ceiling was a lot lower than what they thought it was. I'm interested to see what, we'll never know, but what PlayStation expected from this. You know, with a $75 million budget, I guess they probably thought to break even. There's no real way that they could have thought this game was going to make them money.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I look at a lot of things now a little bit differently about this game because I think about the fact that this was a full-priced $70 game. I have a question now of should they have considered a $59.99 price tag instead that was a little less intimidating for people who are a little less confident in connecting with a roguelike? That's extremely difficult. Should they have put out a demo or a trial to show people the ropes, let people see what this game is all about, be more inviting? Maybe that would have been a smart move. I just look at a lot of things that happened and say, okay, they kind of announced it. They showed 2 or 3 trailers, and then it just kind of happened and came out, and that was it. Yeah. So I also think that to that point, the rollout of this game felt very anemic. And we talked about that too, in terms of like, how much can you really say about a game that's basically Returnal all over again? And I think people in the media were having a hard time finding something to latch onto. But the cost of that is the zeitgeist for this game was so short, Pablo. I felt like this game was talked about for maybe 5 days. I'll give it a week, I guess. And then people just moved on. And I guess that's kind of the problem, because you don't see that with many of those marquee prestige PlayStation single player games. They always linger. People still talk about The Last of Us to this day, God of War. This one just kind of came and went. So it just feels like this whole thing maybe shouldn't, and this sounds going to sound a little rough, but maybe it shouldn't have been greenlit at all, Pablo.
Okay, at 300,000, 22 million, that means that they would have to sell 1.5 million copies to break even.
Yep.
Whew. So they would have to outsell Returnal and have no PC,
Oh, we're talking about that next. Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
Have no PC.
Put a pin in
anything to cushion that. You know what? This seems more like management dropping the ball in terms of expectation, pricing, greenlighting it to begin with.
And also, this is the second underperforming first-party title this year alongside Marathon. I mean, I love Marathon. I had a great time with it. I even double-dipped and got it on Xbox, too. But, yeah, the player base is dwindling. They don't really seem like they have a real solution on how to reignite interest in that game right now, despite the next season starting. And now you are, if you count Marathon, if you count God of War, Sons of Sparta, and now you count this, you've kind of had 3 straight games this year, Pablo, from your first party that really didn't make a dent. And now this is just kind of the Wolverine show from now to the end of the year. It's a lot of pressure, and it's just a lot of concern, because, man, what do you do next if you're PlayStation? What do you do with Housemarque if you're PlayStation?
Yeah, I don't even want to think about that, because that doesn't bode well for them. But here's the thing. Here's the bigger picture, though, right? Wolverine comes. Let's say Wolverine's awesome. Smash hit. Incredible game. What's next? You had a whole bunch of games that failed in 2026. You had one banger. Let's just say that Wolverine is a banger. And now you have, there was an actor from Intergalactic said that the game was coming out in a couple of years. He was quoted saying.
I thought it was next year, bro. I was like, oh no.
Yeah, so I don't know what's next here. And so they're gonna leave a lot of people with a bad taste in their mouth. If Wolverine is good and not great, that could be disastrous for just the overall PlayStation, just in terms of how people look at PlayStation and their first-party output right now. Because the joke is funny, because everything's cyclical. The joke for Xbox for many years is that Xbox has no games, and now we're here with PlayStation, and the same thing can be said about PlayStation when you look at first-party games,
We just talked about the similarities of Xbox with the last topic, with prices going up for subscription services and AI and online DRMs. Like, they are deep in the Xbox playbook from back in the day. And it's it's almost eerie how much they're running parallel right now. Or it is very concerning, because next year could be, Pablo, Horizon Hunters Gathering and crickets. You know what I'm saying? Or like, let's cross our fingers. Let's hope that God of War spinoff is a next year thing. Something for crying out loud, right?
Yeah.
Like if there's something like that, then that does soften the blow a little bit. But if it's one of those years next year,
even then, like God of War again, man.
And that's what I think the fate of Housemarque could be. I think they could end up being this franchise we got over here, why don't you just make a spin-off of that one? I'm very concerned they're going to get pushed into that. I say concerned more so because it's just going to be another IP kind of being milked to death. But I think the days of them getting the freedom to make whatever they want to make over there in the corner are over. That's done after this. I don't think you can do a roguelite again. There's no way PlayStation should let them go back and make a third one of these and sell 150,000 the next time around. Like, that would be insane. I think the smart decision for Housemarque is, okay, they're great at gameplay. Go make some. I mean, we've hearing rumors, like Nate the Hate said, that they're starting to think about bringing some IP back from the dead over at PlayStation. Maybe you say, hey, make a really cool Infamous reboot. Go nuts with that, because that can be right at their alley,
for them.
Right? And that taps right into the combat expertise that they have. Like, I can see that working out well. But if they don't do that and they try to pitch some bullshit again, I think there's a high risk of them getting shuttered, unfortunately.
People like these games. Let's get that right. But not enough people like it. And at the end of the day, that's how you survive in the industry. You got to make something that people want, especially if you're going to be out here selling that shit for $70, you know?
$70, Pablo. They need to put that game on sale quick, fast, and in a hurry for Memorial Day or something. I don't care what it is.
For Memorial Day and the rest of days.
All the days. Yeah, man. You have to. Because at this point, that is an epitome of a commercial failure. All the best to Housemarque. I mean, talented team.
They're talented as hell. Yeah.
I think they returned to the well one too many times, and this is kind of what happens. And unfortunately, I think this wasn't super shocking, at least for me. I know it was for you a little bit, but either way, I think it's time for some pretty big changes with the direction of their game development and what is greenlit over at that damn studio, because this ain't it.
Yeah.
As good as it is, it ain't it in the eyes of PlayStation fans. And for starved as we are, it reminds me of the meme, Pablo. You ever seen this meme of like this dude crawling in a desert, and he's like saying water, water, and he finds a bottle of Dasani, and he doesn't want Dasani, so he just crawls past it and goes, water, water. That is Saros right now. You know what I mean? PlayStation fans have wanted this amazing marquee single-player title. They got this, and they're like, no, we still want, we just don't want that one. We still want, you know, like that's not good, man. You can't do that to your PlayStation community and just make something that absolutely no one was interested in. Moving right along, we have another bit of PlayStation news here, Pablo, because it is official. PlayStation CEO Herman Hulst did officially confirm to staff in an internal town hall meeting that first-party single-player games will no longer be ported to PC. This whole PC pivot is starting to be called into question again, as many view this commercial failure of Saros as proof that Sony did jump the gun on pulling out of the PC ecosystem. I think that makes a lot of sense, Pablo. I think it makes a lot of sense to question this now and say, well, now you've peaked, and now there's no more potential for Saros to sell anywhere else. And unfortunately, this is how it goes. This is the trade-off of keeping things on consoles only. If you didn't make a game that's cool, that people want to buy, there's nothing else you can do now. And that's kind of spooky, but I hope that it does push PlayStation to be a little bit more mindful, again, of what they greenlight moving forward. But what say you?
I guess I'm torn because looking over like some of the numbers and stuff, you know, they said that one of the things that PlayStations have a problem with is net revenue, where when it comes to consoles, they reach a net revenue quicker than they do with PC. So they were talking about how when all these games came out, they made a net revenue of $300 million, and the PS4 and PS5 reached those numbers so much quicker that it's not even close. So I get the fact that maybe diminishing returns, putting money in to develop a PC version of a game, and then not getting that back doesn't make a lot of sense. Maybe they're breaking even. Maybe they're making a little money, but they are taking away a little bit of that exclusivity from their consoles. But I don't know, man, because I'm looking at some numbers here. Horizon Zero Dawn sold 4.5 million, God of War 4.2 million, Days Gone 3.4 million, and Spider-Man 2.7 million. So those are not.
Did you notice the trend? Did you notice the trend downward every single time? Yeah, and I'm sure they saw that too and were like, wait a minute, I think the novelty's wearing off of us putting our shit on PC.
Yeah, I guess I like that they're clear-cut about it, but I wish there was some wiggle room. Like, again, a game like Saros would benefit, I think, from a PC release to a certain extent, buffer up some numbers there. But this actually makes sense to me, man. I think that this is something where you add value to the console and, you know, you make it exclusive and exclusive. And I think PlayStation has been on that boat for a while about being serious about exclusives. And if you are serious about exclusives, specifically about your first-party games and your single-player games, that this is a move that makes sense in terms of what they're trying to do. It's one of the most clear avenues that they've given us in terms of what they want to do with the console. What do you think?
I've gone back and forth on it too, but I think I'm kind of on the other side of it now, where I think it was a mistake to bail out of that strategy this soon. I think that, in my opinion, at the very least, you should have finished out this generation keeping this strategy in place, because things have been raggedy for a little while with just getting people to come from PS4 to PS5 as it is. And a lot of players are starting to be more PC-centric these days in terms of like just raw statistics. So there's a lot more PC gamers now than ever before. And because of that, I just don't think you should walk away from that kind of money. What I think changed them is probably the Steam factor with having a Steam machine now, and you just don't want to start watching your stuff end up on other hardware. And of course, Xbox doing the PC console hybrid probably made them second guess some things as well. But I don't think, to me, you can afford to let more of your first party studios live and die by the PlayStation user base, because the PlayStation user base doesn't really buy a lot of games. We have statistics that show people buy like 2 games a year on average. So, and then most of the time you got a lot of people who just play free to play shit. So for you to try to sell people on a niche roguelike kind of game, you're already preaching to a very small choir as it is. So why not open the floodgates a little bit? And to your initial idea of maybe being a little bit more selective at least, and say, okay, PC gamers tend to be a little bit more open-minded about roguelike games. They are more interested. You see games like Hades 1 and 2 get early access. It becomes a big deal. Maybe we can tap into that kind of fan base with a game like this. So I think that they shouldn't, I guess I say all that to say they shouldn't have drawn a hard line about this. Look, and they should have been a little bit more flexible.
What we know about PlayStation is that they love to make money. And if it took them 3 years to pocket $300 million, that's not going to do it for them. And I think there's something to be said at the end of it all where we look at games individually and their successes in terms of how much they sold, but they look at it overall. And, you know, having to plan for a PC version, knowing damn well that if all goes well, you'll make $300 million in 3 years for a PlayStation, that just doesn't make a lot of sense for them.
Yeah, that's true.
Economically. So it's not surprising to me at all, but it's crazy that it took this long, in my opinion, for them to pull out, because this has been downward spiral for quite a bit. But I wish it wasn't a hard line. I wish that there were some games that they say, you know what? Like, for example, Days Gone came out many years after its initial release, right?
Yeah.
And it sold 3.4 million copies. That's pretty good. Like, maybe do that where a couple of years from now, there's a game in your library that you want more people to play, or you think that it could really work on PC, and do that. And maybe that's something that could work for them.
What some people would say to that, though, Pablo, is that that's been their issue, is that they wait too long to port the game to PC past its shelf life. And that maybe if they had tried more day and date games, like if Saros came out on PC and PS5 simultaneously, there would have been a bigger upswell of support, of zeitgeist, of conversations. So I see both sides of it. I do.
Do you think PlayStation should have gone the other way and just do day and date?
As much as reasonably possible, I think they should have tried that out. They should have at least tested it. That's what I will say. Get a sample size. You know, see kind of what Xbox was doing for a while. Let's try 6 months out. Then we'll put it on PS5. Let's get a read. Let's put out a game that came out 4 years ago, see what that does. Sea of Thieves, here you go. Like, they tried a lot of different shit, and I think that helped them get a lot of information, whereas I think this feels like, ooh, we don't want our games on those platforms. All right, we're done. And it feels very spooked.
I guess.
And I don't like that. Your games can't keep coming out and flopping. They can't.
I guess the argument to that, or to play devil's advocate about day and date, is that they probably perceive that as losing some kind of console hold in terms of, I have a PC, I don't have a PlayStation, but I really want to play this specific game. Oh, I have a PC, it comes out on PC. That I'm not really beholden to buy a PlayStation because it's going to be on PC. So it's one of those things where they almost feel like, obviously, software moves hardware. So maybe they feel like they don't want to risk having to split their sales, plus having to come out on Steam and then paying Steam out and then having to make less money because they come out on PC anyway. So it's just one of those things where you got one game that comes out on both platforms, you're going to make significantly less money on PC because you got to take a cut from Steam.
No,
so
of course. Yeah. I mean, you're right. I mean, they're damned if they do, if they're damned if they don't. So it's like, I just think this should be the fire that gets lit under their asses to say, okay, we need to start really trying to make games that people want to spend their money full price to play. Because right now that is not working. That's not working at a $40 price tag for the Marathons of the world. It's not working at a $70 price tag for the Saroses of the world. Like, they've got to start getting back to a place with their first parties where they're putting out games that everyone stops what they're doing and goes and buys. They need that Last of Us Part 3 type of experience. They just do. Man. The fact that doesn't exist yet is nuts to me, because that is exactly why you're in the position you're in right now, where you had to flirt with PC in the first place because you just weren't selling enough on your home base of console. And now you just don't have enough marquee stuff coming out. Wolverine will help a little bit because obviously Wolverine's popular, but even then, you still can't just lean on Marvel to get you the pop culture moment. You need to start getting back to a place. And I think that's why they're kind of almost foolishly overdoing it with God of War, for instance, because they know, this is one of those ones. We got one of those. Yeah. But they're doing it in a way that's kind of messy and haphazard. It's just not being handled well. But
it's like, we heard you guys like God of War. Then here, take everything that's hidden.
Everything, yeah. So it's just, it's going to be really interesting to see if they can pull this out. But doing it just on console is going to risk more Saros type of stories in the future, unfortunately, if they don't get their act together. But we'll stay tuned. But a game that I think, if this is real, Pablo, this is a game that would absolutely sell hand over foot. And that is this recent leak that has surfaced about FromSoftware's next big project, which is apparently it's called Cerulean Onslaught. Let's talk about it, man. Well, first, let me actually give you and the listeners a little summary of the leaked details. Okay, so the setting is basically this marine, nautical, dark fantasy world with islands and massive vertical shipwrecks and things like that. You have your own ship. It's customizable. It sort of acts as the player's mobile hub in this interconnected sort of world with vertical regions comparable to like Bloodborne rather than a full-blown open world. And apparently this thing is going to get announced at Summer Games Fest and could be out as early as this August. So I don't know if I missed any important details on that summary, Pablo, but
it's little things that make me like, because I'll be honest with you, I don't think this is real for certain. I'll tell you why. Cerulean Onslaught is a terrible name, but the Cerulean Coast in Elden Ring, in the DLC, has a ship all the way out that you can see from the map. I think that the people are playing with that, sort of that area and making, I don't know where Onslaught came from. I think that's just an awful name. Naming convention-wise, FromSoftware is better than that. Yeah. But the little things that make me think like, is every FromSoft game has the player's name something. Like there's a name, the Tarnished, whatever. And the one for this will be The Drowned, which makes a lot of sense. There's a project in FromSoft that was leaked called Project FMC, and the leaks are suggesting that stands for Fantasy Marine Combat. So there's little things that make sense, that make you think like, okay, this could be real. But ultimately, I think that the pirate theme is equal to Forza Horizon being in Japan. Like, people have been wanting a FromSoftware pirate game forever, me included. So a lot of this stuff makes some sense. The conflicting reports about the leak is that the game is open world, and then they're saying that it's not. Miyazaki specifically said that they are not an open world studio going forward just because of Elden Ring. He goes, their open world is going to be most likely an Elden Ring thing. So if we do get an Elden Ring sequel, I think that's what we're going to see. But in terms of that kind of stuff makes me feel like it's not real. I wouldn't be shocked if there is a FromSoftware game that's announced in addition to Dustbloods in Summer Game Fest. And I wouldn't be shocked if it's pirate. I honestly don't. I think that that's something that feels like a natural progression, especially if in Elden Ring and other games, there have been kind of hints towards that, some sort of pirate lore that's been going on as well. So there's a lot of that stuff that's happening here. I'm super excited for it. I hope that it's something new, because I think after Dustbloods and after whatever this new FromSoftware game, if real, I think we're going to see Elden Ring 2. That's like the next big one after all this. But it gets me excited because this is kind of exactly where I want FromSoftware to go next. I want the pirate theme. I want all this. Sounds awesome. Whoever, if this is real, dope, but whoever made this up, good job, man, because you did your research. You got me thinking like,
Hey, man, all you got to do is just thank ChatGPT, because this is some AI-generated bullshit.
Yeah. I think so too, yeah.
I mean, I will shoot at some bail. There are some things, to your point, that do make this sound plausible.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't even be surprised if maybe this information is perhaps accurate, but very, very outdated.
Yeah.
And that maybe things have changed a lot, and that maybe this was just a tentative title, and maybe we'll see something that is kind of like it, but very different, or took on a different shape and form throughout development. Where I get the most skeptical is more timing related. I don't think that we're going to see anything from Summer Games Fest about anything other than Duskbloods, if that. I think that might just be a Nintendo thing only for their showcases. Because I just don't think that they would want to step on their own major release of 2026 and have two games kind of coming out. And I know people think, and I think you mentioned this to me offline, like, well, those two things can coexist because one's a Nintendo exclusive and one would be everywhere or everywhere but Nintendo. And that's true, but I just think there's no reason to pack things like sardines on yourself when you can have a really nice game to come out in 2026 and then maybe early to mid next year, long after the GTA craze is over with, you can drop that, be a Game of the Year contender right off the bat, and then you've got 2 back-to-back years of being the shit in the eyes of the community. So I see it more as a next year type of thing if this is true. August just seems like too quick of a turnaround for me. I can't wrap my head around that at all.
Yeah, and a lot of the stuff that people are saying, they're taking these little snippets from conversations or details that have been said out loud or leaked throughout, with FromSoft saying that they'll never do what they did with Elden Ring, announce that game many, many years before it was ready. So that when they're ready to announce a game, they'll announce it and it's going to have a release window. And a lot of people are taking that to heart and saying, oh, Summer Game Fest 2 months later. That's not what they meant. They meant that, hey, we announce this game and when the calendar year, whether it be next year or, sometime within the next 12 months or even a little more, this game's going to be out available to play. So I just think that for me, when you look at everything as a whole, it just feels like fantasy booking. But I would say that to your point about Nintendo, if I'm not mistaken, Nintendo fully has marketing on that in terms of when they decide to talk about the game. So I think that it would make sense if they announced a new game because it wouldn't hurt Duskbloods. It just wouldn't because it's a Nintendo exclusive. I don't think that would hurt it. In terms of releasing before, no way. Yeah.
That's where I just think that's just not possible. My hope for this game is that it is a little bit more semi-open though. I don't always connect with the traditional Souls formulas with it, just like the traditional level design, that like labyrinthine kind of puzzly.
Oh, I love that.
I don't do well with that. I would like something that's a little bit more open. So I don't feel like, okay, I have no choice but to fight this thing ahead of me over there. I can leave and go do something else, get more powerful, and come back. Like, that's what helped me get through Elden Ring very well. And I'd hate to lose that here. And I'm also a little nervous about like naval combat with a FromSoftware title. Like if they go that route in any capacity, I'm nervous because I don't need those kind of gymnastics on my fangles, man.
That would be a huge departure for them. Then again, I don't know. Because they might be taking Armored Core stuff and Dark Souls stuff and making this beast of two things together, which I would be less excited for because I am not an Armored Core fan in the slightest. Mm-hmm. So that would be so disappointing. That would hurt my heart.
Yeah, that would definitely suck.
Yeah.
But I also like the fact that they challenge themselves to do different things. So even if it's not for me, I'd still really appreciate it from afar.
Ironically enough, I think that FromSoftware does have to start evolving a little bit because for a long time, FromSoftware was the king of the Souls-likes. And unfortunately, or fortunately, there's so many games coming out that are hitting that formula and doing such a good job with it,
Yeah.
Mortal Shell 2 is coming out this year, and that looks absolutely fantastic. Wu-Chang Fallen Feathers from last year was incredible.
Yeah. Next Lies of P is in full production, too.
Yeah. So these games are hitting it, and they're understanding what makes those games special, and they're making their own version of those games. So it feels like FromSoftware has to kind of do something different. They have to
innovate. Yeah,
innovate.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
But for now, I call BS tentatively on this leak. But I do think there's like a smidgen of truth to it that might make itself known down the road. But we'll see, man. We'll definitely talk about it when we do see it, hopefully sooner than later. Until then, man, that's going to do it for this week's episode of the PlayStation Effect. Good conversation all around, although it wasn't always the most positive topics in the world around PlayStation, but we got to go there sometimes. We're not a podcast that pretends that everything is perfect about this platform. It's certainly not. But if you enjoyed it, and you enjoyed the honest conversation, brutal as it may have been, and you want more of that honest type of style for PlayStation discourse in the future, we're your guys. So we drop episodes new every Tuesday, so check us out, subscribe, and until next time, stay safe, save often, and we will see you next week.
Peace out.